There we go. So one thing that I have heard from other students or who've asked me this question is it really true that 85% of jobs are found through networking? And, that's a tough question to answer because networking is certainly a huge benefit for your job search because it allows you to have almost like an in or having to know someone in a company or to have someone help you for opportunity. But 85% is a huge statistic. So I was looking at different studies on this, and that 85% was actually done from a 2016 study. Actually, another student did let me know about this. So I'm glad that that was something that I learned today. But, you know, what percent we don't exactly know because there's so much that goes on in the job search process. But one thing that I think that's important to know is that you should not just be using job boards. You should not just be using job applications online. The networking component is going to make it significantly easier and will benefit you significantly in the long run. And I think another common myth is that networking is going to guarantee you a job. That is not true. The purpose of networking is to connect with other people and to build relationships. And, as we start talking about that, I realize that the term networking, building connections, and building your network, these are terms that a lot of people are like, what? What is this person talking about? I've never heard these things before. So let me just talk a little bit about what each of those things mean. So networking is a process of making connections and building relationships. So these connections can provide you with advice or context that can help you make more informed career decisions. Networking can help you find unadvertised jobs or internships, and it can take place in large or group settings or in one-on-one settings. And so when you are networking with people, your goal is to make connections. So connections is a form of relationship that you form with professionals inside or outside of your industry or a specialization. And another thing you'll probably hear me talking about too, or probably you've heard before, is knowing what your professional brand is or how you're going to market yourself. And that is how you tell your story. It's how you distinguish yourself as someone who's credible, trustworthy, and as a skilled candidate. So it goes without saying that you should be the one in control of how your story is communicated. So a lot of times when someone says, oh, tell me about yourself, who are you? I think a lot of our go-tos is that, oh, I'm a student at Tufts, which is fine to say, but you are so much more. There's so much more about you than being simply a student. You have skills, you have strengths, you have a story to tell as well. So that is something that you can bring when you are trying to connect with people and when you're making a networking strategy. So in small ways or big ways, you can connect with others professionally in ways you probably wouldn't otherwise consider. I think the easiest one is making connections either through friends or family. So when I'm talking about that, I mean telling people that you are looking for a job, you're looking for an internship or a co-op. You're letting people know what kind of things that you're learning in school, the projects that you're working on. So a lot of times talking about people in your immediate circle is probably the easiest, and probably it's because you already have a close bond with a lot of these folks. But I want to encourage you all to try to branch out that even just by a little bit. So you could start small by looking at the people in your community, either through clubs, identity-based organizations, or social interest groups. And then you can expand that even more in professional networking. So talking to your coworkers, supervisors, some people in your leadership areas, or other industry professionals. And then you can branch out even more through the academic lens, your professors, TAs, other advisors. And you can network, listen, you can network with anyone, and you will have no idea where a great conversation may go. So you could be having a really good conversation at the hairdresser, or maybe There's someone that you see all the time at the gym and you start talking it up and saying that this person's doing an internship at a company that you're interested in. Maybe they can give you some tips. So you can network at conferences, coffee chats, networking events that Tufts puts on or that other companies might put on, different recruiting receptions. You can network in clubs, in different meetings. You can network at the workplace, in your classrooms, at career fairs. It can happen anywhere. So anytime that you're in a opportunity to talk about either your job search or about your goals, these are great people to start with and to have those conversations. So I kind of talked a little bit about how there was this really old study that talked about how 85% of jobs were found through networking, but I did find a study that was a little bit more recent than that in 2020. The study population was a little bit smaller, but I thought that this study was interesting. So what percent did this study find that folks were hired by someone else introducing them? 73%. That is quite high. And similarly, by knowing someone who worked at companies, 70%. So these are really substantial numbers to be thinking about as we're thinking about networking, because one simple introduction can lead a way towards an opportunity. Maybe not immediately, but a simple introduction or a simple way to meet someone can have long-term benefits. And when we're thinking about the benefits of networking, I know that when we're thinking about our strategy, it can be really scary sometimes because a lot of these opportunities, we're talking to strangers, we're not entirely sure how we're going to present ourselves or what the outcome might be. So it may feel like, I don't know if this is worth it. What am I going to really get out of this kind of conversation or these kinds of connections. And so I'm telling you, there's a lot of great benefits to it. You're building professional relationships. You're finding ways to communicate in ways that you probably aren't used to, and also making more confident career decisions. And getting the insider industry knowledge can be such a benefit because there are people out there who do not get to have firsthand knowledge of what's going on in the industry. But maybe if talking to a professor and they connect you with an old colleague, maybe they can tell you some really cool things that they're working on, or maybe cool initiatives that are being discussed in the industry. And you would never have known those kinds of things if you never took that initial step to reach out to just one person. So it really is great because you get to learn more, not just like outside, but you also get to learn more things with yourself too. So let's talk about building connections in practice and how this can look like. So one thing that I will definitely highly recommend is to be involved. So whether if that is through career-based organizations, volunteering for local events, attending campus events, or going to virtual workshops like this, you need to go out there to form those connections. They're not going to become banging on your door. You have to be going out and making intentional conversations with people. And, also consider extending your own time or your own knowledge to other people who might benefit most. So either forming study groups, sharing your knowledge to other classrooms, maybe providing mentorship. That's another great way. When we think of it as like bringing, helping others or giving back, we may not always think like, oh, well, how's this person going to help me with an opportunity? But not only is that going to help you get that experience yourself, but you're also having an opportunity to help a small group of people. And again, maybe they might know people and maybe you'll be seeing them again in the future for other events. So another thing too is, you should also be considering who knows you, because sometimes we always say like, oh, it's all about who you know. And that is true in some ways, but you also want people to know who you are. So find ways to be present, speak up in class, volunteer in small ways, ask questions, show up to things, use your voice, and also having a presence on LinkedIn can really go a long way as well. Um, when you are talking to people and when you are connecting with others, make sure to have some sort of follow-up strategy, because maintaining your connections does take just as much time and effort as forging them. So get contact information, let them know that the conversation or that the topic that you discussed was really beneficial to you. And one other thing too is, it's really important to go into networking and like being genuine with your connections, because we don't want to fake our way into relationships. For one, you wouldn't want someone else to kind of fake their way to getting to know you. You would want to have a more genuine conversation. You don't want someone to want to get to know you because of ulterior motives. So, I know that we're talking a lot about how networking is really helpful with finding opportunities, with finding ins with companies, and that's true. But you don't want to make it obvious when you are talking to these people, or when you're at these different networking events. Go into it as a way you really want to get to know the person. You want to hear their advice. You want to know their insight and the different tips that they can provide to you. So that's just one thing to keep in mind of. So let's talk about the trickiest part. How to start a conversation. Because again, we're putting ourselves out there, and it can be really scary, especially if we are in in-person events and we're approaching someone, or we have to kind of initiate a conversation, especially to a company or to an individual we really want to get to know. So I want to talk a little bit about how to initiate conversations in these different modalities, because they're a little bit different, but mostly similar. So I think the easiest way to start a conversation in person is to just get someone's opinion on something. And sometimes using an example in your environment is the easiest way to do that. So for example, one time I went to a mass BioLife conference and it was the lunchtime. The line was so long, and I was standing in line with someone and we were like scoping out the food. And so I turned to her and I said, "What do you think is better, the beef or the chicken? They both look really good." And she's like, "Yeah, I don't know. They both look like really good selections, but I think I'm gonna go with the beef today. I don't know. I'm just feeling that." And I was, we just, that kind of initiation doesn't have anything to do with talking about careers or industries, but it was a really good way to kind of break the ice, because as we're waiting in this line, I got to find out that she was actually a recruiter for Thermo Fisher, and I was there to find companies who were interested in co-op students. So, and that was just waiting in line for food at a conference. So I think that's a really easy way to start a conversation with someone, to just bring up something around you and just to kind of hear their opinion on something. And if you want to reach out to someone through email, and they are, and like they're someone that you do not know, I think a good way to at least make sure that the person opens up your email, because, remember, a lot of people at these companies, they receive emails all the time. So we want to have our email stand out as a way that we're there to form a connection with them, and that we want to hear some of their advice, or hear some of their tips. So have your email start off with a strong positive greeting. Might be a good idea to know any connections you have already. So if you have a buddy that works for their company already, or if someone gave them your contact information, their contact information to you, might be a good idea to also note that as well. And make sure to really state what you want. So do you want to schedule a phone call? Do you have questions that you would like answered? What do you want addressed in this conversation? And make sure that the email is not an essay long, make it concise, because again, they're probably not going to read a really long email. So state what you want, be friendly, and respectful in your messaging. And if you want to reach out to someone on LinkedIn, this strategy is not that much different for an email. However, one thing that you do want to keep in mind of are first, second, and third connections. And I'm going to be showing you LinkedIn in a few moments, but I can tell you a little bit about this right now. So on LinkedIn, when there are people that you are connected with, so people that you sent a request to be connected and they say yes, and so you're like on their connections list, that is a first connection. So kind of like adding someone as a friend on Facebook and them accepting the friend request. It's kind of similar to how it is on LinkedIn. So if you're connected to someone on LinkedIn, that is a first connection. If you have mutual connections with someone else, they will be a second connection. Second connections will allow you to send a message to them, but you only have a certain amount of characters to send a message to. So if you do have a mutual connection with someone on LinkedIn, that message will have to be a little bit shorter than how your email is going to be, but still same messaging and still same tips that I would say, like what I said before. If you see that it is a third connection, that means you have no mutual friends. You've got no other way of having a connection with this person. So sending them a message on LinkedIn is going to be a little challenging. So that's something that that's something that I'll talk to you a little bit about later, is how to find a way to connect with someone if they are a third connection. It's not impossible, but it's just a little bit more challenging. One thing, I did not put this in this presentation today, because I know that it was talked about at another workshop, was about informational interviewing. This is another great way to get connected to a company that you otherwise don't have any connections with. And that would be like you wanting to wanting to interview someone at a company, asking them questions about either industry, about their career pathways. And again, the purpose is to form a connection between you and someone at this company. I know that was talked about before at another workshop, so I won't focus a ton of it today. But informational interviewing is still a really great strategy for finding connections into companies that you don't have any relationships with. So we talked a lot about getting the connection started, but please know you still need to maintain these connections, right? Because we can't just have a one-time conversation and say, oh, I've got a connection to someone at this company. Just like any relationship, it takes time, it takes effort, and it also takes trust when you're building these kinds of relationships. So how can we maintain these relationships? I think the easiest one, honestly, is to add them on LinkedIn, because then that way you have that first connection. You can message them anytime. You can see what they're talking about, what they're posting about. You can also see if they're going to be posting any jobs. So I think that's probably the easiest way. Add them on LinkedIn, interact with their posts, and then that way you're making that intention to want to stay connected to them. If you met this person if you met this person at an event, either at a coffee chat or a career fair, try to see if you can start a conversation after said event. So either reaching out to them by email or on LinkedIn, just finding some way to kind of keep the conversation going. And also remember what you talked about in those conversations. So like, if you find out that maybe this person mentioned that they have a birthday next week, remember like, oh, this person has a birthday next week. I'll remember to send them a friendly message, wishing them a happy birthday. And that will really show that you took that extra step to remember what they said. And it also shows that you care about them. So follow up, thank them for their time, either after the event. So a lot of us were at the career fair last Friday. So if you have not done so already, I would make sure that you do send out your thank you emails today to the people that you spoke to if you did attend the career fair. This is something that you should definitely be doing with all networking events. So I know that on the 15th, there is a engineering networking event happening as well. So when you go to that, or if you decide to go to that, make sure to get contact info so that you can do your follow-ups after. And again, make intentional times to check in with folks routinely. So let's talk about communication etiquette. So when you're talking to people, these are some do's and don'ts. I guess we'll call it like that. So try to avoid triggering topics, have positive body language, and be aware of your facial expressions. And also make sure to do your research ahead of time. So if you know there's a certain company going to a fair or going to an event, make sure to read up about that company or about what they're doing before you have conversations with them, because again, that shows that you're doing your homework and that you are coming prepared for that conversation. Um, Remember that one of the best skills for communication is active listening. So even though we're there to get to know each other, try not to focus the conversation on only just you. Be curious, ask about them, and hear what they have to say. Nonverbal cues are important, so make sure to have eye contact, head nodding shows us that that the person is listening. And also make sure to plan your introduction. That's something that we're going to be talking about in the interviewing workshop. That's going to be in 2 weeks. Yes, is how to have a strong introduction. So definitely make sure to tune into that to learn more. So some of these things I kind of talked about already. Oh, this is important. You want to make sure that when you are reaching out to someone, either through email or on LinkedIn, that you do want to make sure you're using an appropriate amount of follow-ups. So you don't want to keep messaging and messaging and emailing until they get back to you. You want to respect people's time. So this is what I generally advise. If you're going to be doing a message on LinkedIn or on email, do your first message, okay? If they don't get back to you in 2 weeks, do another follow-up, all right? And if you don't hear anything after that second follow-up, that first follow-up, I would just continue on and use your networking energy towards other directions. There's a lot of reasons why maybe someone might not be replying back to us. It could be that they're just not at that space to be making connections with someone. So you don't want to come up as too pushy, because that can actually negatively impact you if we're consistently and really trying to make contact with someone. I would say 2 outreaches, and that's plenty. The ball would be in their court at that time. Try to find ways to connect with the person. So this is something really important anytime you're trying to make a strong connection with someone. So if you know that the person you're talking to is working in an industry that you're interested, maybe bring up a project that you're working on that's related to what their specialties are, and then hear what they have to say. And then you could always relate back to the work that you're doing, or showing your enthusiasm for the kind of work that they're doing. Showing that you are trying to find a way to connect with the person is going to be helpful. Once the conversation feels like it's getting close to an end, plan a smooth transition. You don't want to kind of like awkwardly say, all right, well, great chatting with you, bye. Make sure that you find a way to either get their contact info, shake their hand, thank them, and then make sure to have that follow-up plan afterwards. Just a couple things for communication etiquette for virtual situations. Just make sure that your messaging is clear and concise. Don't use informal language, emojis, or laid back messaging. I hear a lot of times from recruiters about how it really sets a negative impression when someone starts an email with "hey," comma, and then the message afterwards. I would start up with greetings so and so, or dear so and so, and not using slang or things like that. And if they do get back to you, so if they do reply back to your message, don't wait a week, don't wait a long time to get back to them. Make sure that you try to respond back to them. I usually say within 48 hours is an appropriate time. That way it shows again that you're reaching out to them with intention. So what kind of questions should you be asking at these kinds of events? There's a lot that you can talk about. Anytime when you are talking to an employer, talking to a professor who has a connection with the company, if you are talking to someone that you know is definitely in a position where they know the hiring process, these are some really great questions to ask. So like, feel free to take a screenshot or take a picture of this if you need to. Actually, these questions are available on our website. So you want to try to see, what a typical workday looks like for them. What do they love about their job? I think that's the best question to ask. Why do you work for this company? Or what keeps you working here? Why do you love the work that you're doing? And then they get to tell you about their journey. And those kinds of stories can be so impactful. So again, this is a really great list to kind of get those topics started. And actually, you could bring some of those topics to any future networking event, like the engineering one on the 15th, for example. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit to talk about LinkedIn. So I want to pause for just a second if anyone has any questions about the networking piece. Networking, we haven't stopped talking about it quite yet, but I do want to switch gears to talk specifically about LinkedIn. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. So just give me a second. Okay, so I'm going to keep going then. So, LinkedIn, why should we be using it? Not only is it one of the biggest platforms on the internet for social media and also for making professional connections, but there's so many other benefits just for you. It amplifies your professional brand, gets you connected to people in the industry, showcase your accomplishments, and you get access to one of the largest job boards on the internet. Um, so LinkedIn it's a professional online hub for people like you to connect, network. Recruiters and employers are increasingly relying on LinkedIn to find top talent. So having a strong presence on there can open doors for you that you may not know have existed. So one question that I get from students is, do recruiters really look at your LinkedIn profile? And from the things that I've heard from recruiters is there's a pretty high likelihood that they do look you up on LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, it's not that it's a red flag, but there might be someone else who does have a LinkedIn profile and has all these accomplishments and showcases a lot of their background. They're probably going to have more interest to someone who does have that kind of online presence versus someone who doesn't have a whole lot of it. So again, it's not that it's required, but it's going to help you significantly. So one big component of LinkedIn is having your profile. So there's so much you can do and so much you can put on your profile. It is, so customizable. There's so many sections you can put on there. And let me just tell you this, it takes a long time to put a LinkedIn profile together. So if you do not have a profile right now, that's okay. But at the absolute bare minimum, I would make sure you have at least these covered on your profile. All these other things are great to have. And obviously, I'm going to encourage you all to fill it out as much as you can. But to at least have a completed profile, just make sure you address these components here in the box. And then that way, it does show that you have a completed profile and that it's not just some like dead space on there. So let's look at an example. Okay, so here's Matt. Looks like he is a finance and business analyst, analytics major. And so we get to learn about him a little bit in his about section. So let me just tell you some things that I like about this example. We have a great headshot. So that is something that I would recommend everyone having on their LinkedIn profiles is some sort of headshot. It does not need to be a glamorous shot, but just a nice picture of your face. And I know we just had our LinkedIn photo shoot, photo booth at the career fair. So hopefully most of you took advantage of that when you did attend. So you could definitely use those photos for your LinkedIn profile. And here's the thing, this is not required, but behind Matt's headshot, you see this nice picture. It looks like it's a campus photo. I actually would encourage you to put some sort of cover photo on your LinkedIn profile. It adds color, and every LinkedIn profile starts with that boring grayish, greenish background. I would add something there to add, again, your industry, your credibility, or just something unique to you. Here we have, under Matt's name, we have what is called a headline. So let me tell you this, your headline goes everywhere with you on LinkedIn. So whether you like a post, whether your profile pops up somewhere, your headline is going to be there. So this is really great real estate for you to advertise yourself. So you can customize this to however you want. Looks like Matt customized it to this, which is nice. And I want you to know that because you could interact with different posts. And if your headline says that you're seeking internships or co-ops, other people will be able to see that. So that's something really important to know. And then for your summary, sorry, not your summary, your about section, these are the kinds of questions you want to address in your summary. Sorry, your about, I just said that. Who you are, what is your background, what are you doing now, what are your passions or specialties, and what are you looking for? So at the beginning of this presentation, I talked about understanding your professional brand or how you want to market yourself. This is what I'm talking about. So you are not bound to job titles. You are not bound to your student title. You get to decide the story you want to make. So if anyone on the street asked, oh, what is your career? Not what is your job, or what is your occupation? But if they say, what do you do for a career? You can use so many different ways to describe that. And you get to determine what those words are and how you want that delivered. So that is a great place to do that in your about section on LinkedIn. And try to have as many keywords as you can, either through your headline, your summary, or your skills section, because those are great ways for your profile to be seen by recruiters. So I'm trying to get through this on time, so I might be going through these a little bit quick, but these are just some options for you to have for your headline. So this is, pretty standard to what most people are going to be doing, or that you'll see on LinkedIn. That's what I have on my LinkedIn. But then again, I'm not in a seat as a job searcher. So I'm fine with just my job title in my company. But these are other things you can do too. So you could have either some sort of career title, list of your skills, catchphrase, or things with more details. So feel free to take a screenshot. Feel free to take a picture of this with your phone if you want to, because these are great templates to have a strong headline started. And let's see what that looks like as real examples. So this is the job title at company. This is a career title, list of different skills, and a catchphrase. And these are ones with a little bit more details on there. So either talking about industries, or using different adjectives. To be honest, all of these are great, and you get to decide which ones that work best for you. But the purpose of this is just to tell you that you are not bound to those titles. All right. So I am going to switch gears a little bit to actually show you LinkedIn. So I'm going to switch over my screens. Just give me one moment. Here we go. Okay. So this is LinkedIn. So this is my view. Your view would obviously be with your profile. But first glance, it does look like Facebook. Okay, I'm aware of that. We have a spot here to start a post. We've got some news stuff here. We have our profile information here. But let me just tell you, do not use LinkedIn like Facebook or other social media websites. This is not a dating site. This is not a site to make buddies or to post pictures of your fun weekend. It is for industry or work-based purposes. Every once in a while, I will see someone using LinkedIn inappropriately, but use your best judgment on how you use this platform. So you see that we have a feed. People are posting things on here. So this is kind of like where you'll see either someone talk about how they just got a new job. So looks like one of my connections just got promoted. That's really exciting. So I could like this post or send her congratulations. These are some kind of ways that small ways you can maintain those connections, like I said before. On the left-hand side, you will see profile viewers, how many people have interacted with your posts. LinkedIn is going to advertise premium quite a lot. And here's the thing, I'm not going to tell you what you can and cannot do with your money. But as a career counselor, my philosophy is you should never have to pay money to improve or increase your chances to get hired. Unless you want to pay money for taking a course to improve a skill, or maybe use your money to buy a nice interview outfit, that's different. But the LinkedIn Premium, for one, it's expensive. And two, a lot of the features on there could be helpful, but it doesn't really significantly change the chances for opportunities. You just kind of get more information, but the power of those decisions is still with the employer. Okay. And then these are some of the groups I'm involved with. Actually, here's a good plug. If you're not already on this group, Tufts University Career Network, Tufts' largest LinkedIn group, I definitely recommend you all joining this. Opportunities get posted on this all the time. Lots of employers are active on this. I mean, we've got a huge number of members on here. So it never hurts to join a group. And if you're new to LinkedIn, this is a really great start. So lots of different groups to join. You can start with this one, and you can also follow different hashtags. So if you follow like a recruiting hashtag, you'll see different jobs posted from recruiters. They'll say, hey, hashtag recruiting, we're hiring for this job, and that'll come up on your feed. Okay, other buttons. Here is where people will send you connection requests. So it's called My Network. Here is jobs. DMs will be here, and then notifications will be here. So I want to quickly show you a way for you to use LinkedIn and to try to find a connection to someone at a company. So I'm going to go to this search box, and I mentioned Honeywell just a few moments ago. So I'm going to type in Honeywell. By the way, most companies should have some sort of LinkedIn presence on here. If you can't find a company on LinkedIn, it's not that it's a red flag, but again, this is such a popular website that if there's no information about a company on LinkedIn, I would try to do your research to make sure it's legitimate, just because of how popular it is to have jobs posted on here. So you get to read about the company. You'll see the different posts that they have on here, but I want to show you where it says people. So let's say I'm trying to find a Tufts connection to Honeywell. We do have a lot of great resources like the HERD and the Tufts Alumni Network Directory, but I want to show you an additional way to use LinkedIn to help make connections. So this is a huge number. And by the way, this is all self-reported. So as long as someone mentions Honeywell on their profile, they will come up here under this number. And I kind of like to look at this information here too. So you can see most of the folks are people in engineering. You can see top skills. So these are some of the skills that you can kind of consider either adding to your resume or to your LinkedIn profile. Gives you inside knowledge of what's the most common thing that people have on there. but I want to find Tufts alum. So I'm going to type in Tufts. All right, so that enormous number just got narrowed down to something a lot more manageable. So let's see what we have here. Got a nice list of people. So as you can see, like if we don't have a profile picture, or like any kind of like background, it does almost look like that this profile is not being used, or it hasn't been active. But if you do have a picture on there, it does kind of tell us that maybe this person is using this profile. So I'm just let's check out Camille's profile. Why not? All right, so I want to show you an example of a great profile. I did look at hers beforehand, and I thought that this was a great example. So her and I are actually in the same group in the Tufts University Career Network. So that's something good to know. This is, again, a great feature that tells you how you're mutually connected to someone. And you can read her about section. This is her activity. So one thing I want you all to be aware of is that anything you like, post, comment on, it's going to come up here in the activity feed here. So make sure that you're aware of that as you're interacting with different things on LinkedIn. It is a good thing to interact with posts, but again, just be mindful of the different things you are interacting with. If you are interacting with a post that gives tips on maybe like cheat codes for using Excel or for different programs, that's a great thing to interact with because it's like a skill related thing. If you're interacting with a post that either has pictures of like violence or has strong content with it, you know, that's going to come up on here, and, you know, employers or other people might be able to see that. So just keep that in mind. So this is her experience section. So I said before, you definitely want to make sure your experience section is filled out. So she's got her different roles here. Her education is here. Licenses, certifications, that's pretty cool. Volunteering. So here we have skills. So we get to see some of her skills that she has, and she was actually endorsed by some of her coworkers. So again, that's a good way to build credibility on your strengths and some of your skill sets. And she also asked people for recommendations. So this just goes to show you how many features LinkedIn does have. It's really cool. So I would say she's got a really great example for a LinkedIn profile. So I would definitely, you know, make sure that your profile is completed to a level to kind of like how hers is. So do you see here next to her name, it says third. That means I have no connections with her. I don't really have an easy way to try to reach out to her. If I go here in a message, it's going to ask me to pay for premium, which again, I don't think it's worth the money. You know, you can try it for free. You do get 1 month free, but then after that, you do have to pay. So if you do find that you have a third connection, you can't DM them. What you can do is you can go here to more, here to connect, and you'll get this pop up. And before, don't click send without a note. You do want to add a note here. So here, this is where you'll introduce yourself, say, hey, we're part of the same Tufts LinkedIn Career Network group. I would love to talk to you about what it's like to work as an engineer manager at Honeywell. This is my dream company. And then you can hit send. And then that way, she'll get a notification here in messaging. She'll also get a notification here for my network. But again, it's up to her whether or not she wants to accept your request. If she doesn't, again, that's her choice, but you would not want to continue to bother her or continuously to be reaching out. All right. And you see here, we've got people's names and their headlines. This is what I was talking about, how your name carries around with you throughout LinkedIn. So this is, again, great real estate for you to advertise what you're looking for. I want to show you one last thing on LinkedIn. There's so much you can do on here, guys. I would play with it and just check out the different features, get your profile completed. But I want to show you a really cool feature on here. So let's see what kind of internships they have. They got some nice internships. Let's just use this one as an example. So you'll get to see the different jobs that they have posted. If you see here, over 100 applicants, do not let that number scare you. LinkedIn can only track the number of people who have clicked this button. They have no way to track if someone actually applied to it. So if it gives you a really big number here, still apply for it, still consider it, because there's really no way for LinkedIn to get an accurate number by someone just clicking on this. But anyways, you can save the job that you're interested in. That will save into your little jobs button here. But I want to show you this. We're going to scroll all the way down, all the way down. Okay, here we go. See here for qualifications. This is giving me some good insider knowledge of what kind of skills I should have on my profile to show this employer that I qualify. So if I go here, let's see. Skills associated with this job. So they're looking for someone with communication and problem solving skills. Looks like I've got those, but I'm missing a lot of other skills on here. Well, for one, I'm not an engineer. But this is giving me some good insight that they're looking for someone who knows how to use Python and Java, and someone who knows computer engineering. So these kinds of keywords we want on our profile. So if I want to add this to my skills section, I can just click that add button. It will automatically get added to my profile. And then if a recruiter sees my profile on LinkedIn as it correlates to this job posting, it will show that I am a high match. So another really cool feature, and hey, never hurts to also put those kinds of keywords on your own resume if you do decide to apply. So that is a very brief introduction to LinkedIn. So I want to finish things up by going back to the presentation. Okay. Here we go. So the Herd, I mentioned this before, is another great way to get connected to other Tufts alumni. And we also have our Tufts alumni directory that is a little bit larger, but people are much more active on the Herd. So if you can't find good contacts on the Herd, maybe check the directory, but you should, be using a little bit of both. And then we also have Handshake. That is another great resource too for looking at opportunities. After this workshop today, I will do a follow-up email to the folks who attended today to give you a list of the different tools and resources on our website. This is a screenshot from our networking page, and we also have a page just dedicated to networking and just dedicated to LinkedIn that you can look at to kind of cross-reference. Whew, can't believe I got through all of that. So thank you so much again for attending. And if you want to make an appointment with me, if you're a graduate student or someone in the co-op program, you can make an appointment through Handshake. But I am here for the next few minutes to answer any questions that anyone may have or any comments. By the way, the Career Center does do LinkedIn reviews as well. So if you want one of us to look at your LinkedIn to think that, that you've covered all of your bases, or if you should revise your summary, or if your headline looks like it showcases what you're looking for, we can also help you with that too. Or if you have any other general questions on how to use LinkedIn, we can also go through those things one-on-one in appointments as well. All right, well, that's all I have for you all. Thank you so much for attending. That was a packed session. So if you don't have anything, you're free to go, but I'll hang out here in case anyone has any questions.